Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Nothing But Sports with Kent Sterling for Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist I've ever gone to. He has been my dentist the last 26 years. If you need a dentist, I got your guy. Dr. Mike O'Neill, 317-849-2933 is the number. The Colts, we told you this morning, they made some roster moves yesterday. One of those moves, they picked up running back Charcandrick West, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, played there the last 5 years. We're going to talk to him in a couple of minutes, but let's talk about practice today out on West 56th Street. What did we see? We saw that Penny Hart and Quenton Nelson, they are back at practice, full participants. Parris, Campbell, Andrew Luck, Adam Vinatieri not practicing today. Luck, he needs a week of practice in order to be ready to play against the Los Angeles Chargers on September 8th. That's still in the ballpark. That could still happen. Don't lose your minds yet. We were hoping that today we would see Andrew Luck out there and we'd see him get some run a little bit this Saturday night at Lucas Oil Stadium against the Bears. Not going to happen. That's the way it goes. He's got to be ready for game one. If he's ready for game one, we're very happy about that. All this talk about Andrew Luck being overrated, we're going to get to after we talk to Charcandrick West. But I'm telling you, Will Cain today on ESPN, he makes my ears red. He makes my scalp steam. This is what he does. I don't like the national guys who try to bring an expert's perspective to a local question. And whether Andrew Luck is overrated is a local question. We know better than he knows. And that's the way it is, and I'll share my perspective in a couple of minutes. Charcandrick West is a cool dude. Let's hear from him, the newest member of the Indianapolis Colts, and a guy who came from the Chiefs, so he's kind of been where the Colts want to go. What kind of an opportunity is this for you with the Colts?
I mean, it's a blessing just to be back playing football. I mean, I was sitting at home doing nothing, so it's a big opportunity.
How far behind the 8 ball are you in that you've missed 3 weeks?
It's football. I feel like I've been doing this, I'm 28 now, I've been doing it for a while. I'm kind of behind as far as probably the running-wise football shape, but it's what I've been working out, though. I've been working out hard, waiting for this opportunity and this moment to come, and I'm ready for it.
Are there a lot of similarities between what the Chiefs did and what the Colts do offensively?
Yes, it kind of is. It's just they use different words. Football is football. I feel like it's not too much you can change up about it. I feel like you just got to switch up the names and then call it something different, but it's football still. Catch ball,
run with ball, make guys miss.
Score the ball.
How welcoming have the guys been?
Oh, man, like I said, these guys are amazing, man, helping us with the calls. I mean, because like I said, coming in my first day here, you just go, they was already in the swing of things, so we just go right in and have these guys that's been here then to help with the words, help where to go, and to show us everything. It's a blessing.
You go from a place that beat these Colts last year in the postseason to being here with the team that got beat. That's the last time these guys played football, a meaningful game. How different is that perspective in here? What did you guys see when you were in Kansas City and you were preparing for these guys?
Oh, man, the first team meeting we had, man, we knew that the coach was a real deal. And it's crazy. I mean, from the start of the season last year into they was a playoff contender and a real good playoff contender. I mean, that defense last year was one of the best we've seen, especially with those linebackers. I mean, those guys can play. You got 53 Rookie of the Year. I mean, he can flat out go, and to be here with these guys and know that they're really building something, it feels it's special.
What did the Colts need to take that next step?
I wouldn't say much, man. Like you said, they was almost there last year. I mean, just come. They put a couple more pieces here and they bring it together. And like I said, the crazy part is the GM, Chris Bradley, he's the one who found me in college, and to be back here with him, man, it's crazy.
Were you born with a smile on your face?
Yeah, man, I was born with this thing. You got to wear it. Man, I'm alive. I'm going to be happy. I'm happy to be here. I am.
Welcome to Indy. Thanks, Charcandrick. The entire time I'm talking to Charcandrick West, he's got a big grin on his face. Looked like a kid on Christmas morning. I guess that's what it's like when you're on the street 1 minute and you're in an NFL locker room the next. Charcandrick West is a guy who can run the football. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can block a little bit too. I think he's got a chance to stick. He's got a couple of weeks to prove his worth. We'll see exactly what happens, but I think that he might be some kind of insurance policy against somebody else who's either hurt now, like Jordan Wilkins, or maybe, you know what, he looks kind of like an older version of Nyheim Hines. And his game is a little bit like that, too. I think Charcandrick West has a chance to stick. on this roster. So Will Cain is talking about on ESPN today about how he believes Andrew Luck's overrated because he was a number 1 overall draft pick, comes to the Colts, and the Colts really haven't done much in terms of going to a Super Bowl, or at least in the last 3 years of being a major player in the postseason. Last year, they started 1-5. They finished 9-1. They go to the playoffs. They win an opening round game in the wild card round against the Houston Texans on the road. And then they go to Kansas City, and they kind of got their doors beaten off in Arrowhead Stadium against the Chiefs. So this is who he is today, who he was last year, and healthy, what he can do. He can help you go from 1-5 to then 9-1 and winning a playoff game with a roster that the year before was one of the worst in the NFL with him on the bench. All right, with him in the tub. He was injured during 2017. 2018, that team was different. It was good. It was dynamic, especially those last 11 games of the season, including that playoff game against the Houston Texans. He is a guy who has had trouble staying healthy. And as a result, it's been tough to expect him to be on the field or to prepare correctly because he's unable to practice or unable to go during camp. I get that. But saying that this guy's underrated, his first 3 seasons, all 11-5, and the first 11-5 in 2012 was with one of the, other than Luck, one of the worst rosters in the NFL. And they went 11-5. The second year, they advanced to the second round of the playoffs. The third year, they go to the AFC Championship game in New England and were destroyed by the Patriots. After that, Andrew Luck hadn't been healthy except last year, went to the playoffs again. Look, here's what wins championships. If you think that you can judge a quarterback based solely on Super Bowl appearances and championship rings, you're out of your mind. Winning a Super Bowl without a really good defense is absolutely impossible. You saw what Peyton Manning did that first Super Bowl with the Colts and that last Super Bowl with the Broncos, right? And the last Super Bowl with the Broncos, Peyton Manning was a shell of himself, but they still won the damn thing because their defense was better than anybody else in the NFL. The Colts defense in 06 was really, really good. At the end of that season, they got clicking. When you put Booger McFarland in the middle of that defensive line, they got really good. As a result, the Colts go to the Super Bowl and beat a Bears team that only had its defense and was led at quarterback by Rex Grossman. You got to have a quarterback to win a Super Bowl, but you've also got to have a defense, and that defense is at least equally important to the role of quarterback. So to gauge Andrew Luck's value as a number 1 overall draft pick in 2012 solely upon playoffs is crazy. It doesn't make sense. I think it's ignorant. Dan Marino was one of the best quarterbacks ever to play the game. He made the Super Bowl way early in his career and never got back to it. Are you going to tell me that Dan Marino isn't one of the best 5 quarterbacks or 7 quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League? You can't tell me that. I don't believe that. Look at Terry Bradshaw. Statistically, not the best quarterback in the NFL, even during his era. But they had a defense, baby. The Steel Curtain defense was unbelievably good. Look at the 85 Bears. They had Jim McMahon, who was a little bit balky, right? He was injured for a bit of 1985. That defense was unbelievable. You saw Trent Dilfer lead the Baltimore Ravens to a Super Bowl win. Trent Dilfer was not a terrific quarterback in the National Football League, even during that championship season. That guy was not one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. We got some other news today. Major League Soccer, the MLS, they're going to expand into St. Louis. That's good. St. Louis, one of the real hotbeds for soccer fans and soccer players in the United States. And so MLS, they're going to come to St. Louis. That's terrific for St. Louisans who are still smarting from having Stan Kroenke up and leave with his St. Louis Rams, turning them back into the Los Angeles Rams. Great for St. Louis in getting an expansion team in that league. Hopefully, Indianapolis winds up getting one. Hopefully, because the Indy 11 are great. And they're going to have an absolute first-class stadium. in downtown Indy, and it's going to be fantastic, and hopefully they wind up in the MLS. You build that kind of stadium, you deserve an MLS franchise. Hopefully we get that kind of news at some point in the next couple of years that MLS is going to come to Indianapolis. Nothing wrong with where they are in the USL. Love the USL. It is high-quality soccer, but we know that the MLS is that's the Major League. It's called Major League for a reason. Cubs tonight, 8:05 against the Giants. Cole Hamels on the bump for the Cubs. And the Giants, they got a tomato can on the mound with like a 5.70 ERA, a 1.60 whip, and a terrible record on the season. This has got to be a W for the Cubs. When they get back to Wrigley, like that game tonight, they got to hang W's because on the road, they flat out suck. And if they're going to win the National League Central, they absolutely need to dominate against teams like the Giants at Wrigley Field. And then this weekend, they got the Nationals coming to town, so that's going to be a lot of fun with Steven Strasburg and Max Scherzer. I don't know if either of those guys are pitching. I hope they're not at Wrigley Field, but if they are, I hope the Cubs kick their ever-loving asses. Tomorrow morning, Breakfast with Kent, 8 o'clock on Facebook Live, and then at 8:15 on Periscope Live. It's a show so nice we do it twice. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist in the world. That's why I've gone to him for the last 26 years. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Join me.